Well, this is a big issue for me. We're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder and how to help yourself recover faster. Is this a proven, doctor-certified way of doing it? No, it's not, but it has been approved by a psychologist that I went to, who said that it's not going to hurt to do what I did. Many years ago, back when the guys were getting back from Vietnam, and you got to remember back then in the Vietnam days, America wasn't behind the vets. They'd spit on them, they'd kick them, they'd beat them to death, they'd throw them out of their own churches. That's what happened in my town. We actually had a guy get thrown out of the church. He went into church, had post-traumatic stress. You know how war is. If you're a veteran, you need to be watching this video because this is going to help you a lot, especially if you're fresh back and you've just been diagnosed. He actually got, so America wasn't behind any of them. The media pretty much destroyed that, and it was a sad thing. Probably one of the saddest days in American history is when America turned against its soldiers. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder and how to help you heal faster. This is mostly for guys that are just coming back, and gals too, or you've experienced the trauma recently. Will it help if you've been dealing with it for the last 30 years or more? Honestly, I don't know. All I know is what helped me when I was diagnosed with it here a few years ago, after I went through what they say was the most traumatic event that could happen to a human being. And with me, it started young. My dad was a fireman. I started going to fires with him when I was 6. First time I had blood on me, from helping him out, I was like 7 years old. And that wasn't really stress. I look back at those memories as my good memories. My stress came later on. So to get back to it, so I'm walking down the street one day. This is, back in the mid to late 70s. I don't remember if I was in high school or out of it. And there was a vet in uniform. And he had a stack of cassettes. And he was trying to get people to take them. And people were walking around him and, just totally avoiding this guy like he was the plague, which was pretty much the norm back then. Fortunately for you guys now, it's not that way, and we're here for you, Well, you know me. You look at me, What would I do? Here's a guy who's been saving lives my entire life. I've been covered in blood more than once, and I've definitely got stress from that too. But, when I saw this vet, the first thing I did was walk right up to him. And I asked him, what's going on, man? A smile on my face, and he's like, I need you to take this. And he goes, I don't want you to watch it. I just need you to take this. And so I took one of those cassettes, and so did everybody that came with me. There was like 3 of us. It was in high school, as a matter of fact. Because I was a little bit too young to go to Vietnam. And what he had done, as I was talking to him, he'd put his story on there about what happened to him, and how he had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress or shell shock or whatever they called it back then. I don't remember, Vietnam syndrome. And so I remembered that when I got traumatized severely here, a number of years ago now. And what I did is I took it to the next level. The first thing I did was buy this camera because I remembered that vet way back then. And I came down here and sat right here in this spot and told my story. And it took maybe 20 hours of video, and I cut it down to 5. But what I found out, what really helped me, was that I could see myself on cassette, on my DVD, on my computer, because I did everything on my computer. I could see myself on the computer. And I knew exactly what I was thinking at that time when I'm watching that video to do the editing. And, there was times I was just broken down in tears watching that video, and it was hard to do. But I made that video, and I put every single detail of what happened to me into that video. Then I took that video and turned it into DVD, and when I got done, my 20 or 30 hours was cut down to about 5. But it's still, imagine a story that's 5 hours long. I had serious stuff happen. And when I had gone to the psychiatrist, or psychologist, what she was, as she sat there completely and totally soaked in her own tears and frothing at the mouth. You know, her one question to me was, how did you live? You know, no one's ever lived through what you lived through. You know, and you got to understand, I'm talking, this is a man with experience here. I've been there. I've had the pistol in every single position you could think of. You know, yeah, I had serious shell shock. I had serious PTSD, but I survived. And so when she asked me what it was that I did, I told her this was it. I told her that I came down right here, right by the river, so I could be here, out in nature with nobody else around, and I sat here, and I recovered, and I made this DVD. You know, and I told every single detail. You know, probably half of that 20 hours is flat out emotionally broken down. You know. But this is what I'm telling you guys. How are you going to heal yourself? You're just coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan or overseas, anywhere. You've been diagnosed with PTSD and you're having the nightmares. You know, you wake up with the cold sweats. Maybe you're waking up totally out of your bed somewhere. You know. You know the extremes as well as I do, and you know we don't need to go into it here because you've already been talking to the right people. And this isn't to take the place of professional help. This is to help you see yourself recover faster. And this is what I'm telling you to do, is take your camera, buy a camera, go out in a place where you can sit there and maybe watch the rest of the world. From right here I can look out and I can see other people when they're up here swimming during the summer or whatever, and I can sit here and be by myself and I could look at them and see what it was like to feel normal again. But you got to be sure when you're making the DVD that you take the time to look at yourself. You can put your camera onto a big screen and look at yourself on a 60-inch TV or a great big giant theater screen or something. The bigger the better, because you can see your emotion close up that way. You're looking not only at yourself, at what you're saying into your story, but you know your emotion that's hiding behind there. You know what you're hiding. And in this DVD, it's got to be really important that you don't hide anything. This is strictly for you. You know, I can still remember the first time I had made a stack of the DVDs. You know, and that was 5. I made 5 one-hour DVDs, and I made 5 sets. And I gave them out to the people that I needed to have see them. The veteran was handing them out to anybody. But there were certain people that I had to have get these DVDs and never watch, because my story was so horrible that it destroys lives. And this is how it is. And one thing I didn't try doing when I had that stack of DVDs was going ahead and scoring them to where they couldn't be watched to see if it gave me the same type of reaction. But I still remember to this day my best friend. You know, I was doing everything I could to hold myself together and not break down and lose it, as I had this stack of DVDs in my hand and I was shaking, and I said, I just need you to take this. And the release that I got when he took those DVDs was so incredible. It was so incredible that you can't put it on film. You just have to try it for yourself. It was like I was just handing away that memory, and I got rid of it. And this was all 5 hours of the worst possible nightmare that you could think of. And it worked. You know, a year later, I went back and looked at the DVDs myself, and I rewatched them, and I could just, I mean, it was just like, wow, man, you've come so far. You know, I mean, it was such an incredible amount of recovery in a short period of time. It wasn't even a full year, maybe 9 months. But I handed out my, 3 or 4 sets of those 5 sets of DVDs I made. I still have one that I have in a safe deposit box. So I took that 5 sets of DVDs and I gave out 4 sets. I gave one to one of my sisters that I truly and totally trusted, and she didn't watch all of them. And that was one thing I did stress to her was, look, I just need you to take this, and I called her back later and said, look, you need to not watch that. It's going to destroy you if you do, I gave another set to another sister. I told her the same thing, and she didn't listen. And she already had post-traumatic stress. And all I did was, pretty much ruin our relationship, and all I wanted to do was not watch it, just take it from her. Which is why I say try scoring it. If you need to give it to somebody you're not sure of their mental status, you might get the same amount of release that I did by handing them a set of DVDs that they can't watch because it's been, taking a screwdriver or whatever to mark the back up. But I don't know if that'll give you the same release or not. It might, it may not. If you're willing to experiment, please do. I had a ton of friends that stood by me. That's the #1 reason I'm alive today. I can't tell you how having a lot of friends, you can't have too many friends. And these friends of mine, they stood by and they saw me in the bad times, and they brought me back out, lifted me up, and kept me going. And they brought me down here, and we'd come camping. And I'd sit here, right here by this river, for almost an entire summer, the first year after it happened. And what you need to understand is when I say it, I mean I had a bunch of things happening over about a 1.5 year period. Everything you can imagine that they say is going to, one of those things could kill you. I had them all. I had them all. Yeah, woohoo, great luck. Well, you know what, I had them all and I survived. If you're out there thinking about doing yourself in, get out here. If you're here in California, you want some help, you want some training on how to do this, I've turned this loose to, as many people as I can, by putting it here on YouTube. Get out to a river, get out to a lake. Personally, I think a river is more soothing because it's like washing your mind at the same time it's going downstream behind you. When I'm looking downstream, it's like all those bad memories are going downstream too. Yeah, my bad year was 2006. I mean, I lost too many friends, and and too much other stuff to go with it. And so here it is, 2011. It was all of 2006. Starting out January 1st, I had a friend of mine die. And that was just the beginning of the most terrible nightmare that I'm not going to go into. And it lasted about 2 years. I still have repercussions from it today, not from myself, but from others. Come up and ask me, well, what's going on, what happened, this and that, what happened to so-and-so, and it's really hard to come out and say, they're not here anymore, they're dead, or whatever. This is how you do it, man. You get the professional recovery if you're a vet, right there in the VA hospital. And you tell the guy what's going on here and have him watch this DVD or this video. Get yourself a camera. If you can't afford one, I'm sure they will provide one for you. I mean, we're talking about veterans here. We're pretty much well taken care of these days, I mean, y'all have laptops. You could probably try using the laptop personally. I used a big screen TV. When I took my camera home, I put it on the computer. My computer is plugged in. My little laptop is plugged into a big screen TV, so I'm seeing myself in vivid color, HD. So stick with a professional help, because they're going to help you bring out every single detail about what's going on inside your head. Then what you need to do is come out here and be honest with yourself. And you're more than welcome to come right here, to this same spot. If you're here in California or whatever, and you feel you can come out here, I'll give you the combination of the gate. You can come down here and do your own thing. It's all good. I realize I could be talking to millions of people, This is Reed Lukens, and I seriously doubt there's going to be that many people that have this problem that isn't going to get to you. But this is my spot. This is where I recover. Because you can just feel the goodness down here. Where you go has to have that feeling. Okay, you can't just sit there inside your house, in the middle of a big city, when there's drive-by shootings right outside or whatever. You need to be out and totally away and isolated from all that stuff. I said, well, like I said, I spent an entire summer down here. And I shot the video. It took about 2 months for me to do it completely and totally. I wasn't down here every day. I had to go to work. But on the weekends, I'd come down here. And if I was feeling really bad, I'd go ahead and just bring a tent down or whatever, and I'd throw the tent up, and I'd stay down here and commute from here to work. It's so amazing to see yourself heal on video. If you don't have the video, you can't see yourself healing. If you don't take those DVDs and give them away, you'll never know the feeling of releasing these nightmares. You know, right now, most of you, your mom and your dad, you'd give a copy to each of them if you had to, or just give out a copy to one. The people that you need to know your story. Once you get done, you start healing. You turn those nightmares that you got into good memories. And when I'm talking about good memories is, think about people that you've helped put back together. I've had people die in my arms. What if I hadn't been there to help guide that person? They would have died all alone. And that's a good memory. I cherish those memories that I have today for the people that died in my arms. The people that I brought back to life through CPR or whatever other ways that I did it, and there was many other ways. Yeah, all you medics and stuff, man. You're out there raising the dead, just like Jesus did. I don't know if you're Christians, and if you are, a lot of you probably have gone down this path to where you are Christians. It's a good part of the recovery. You start reading the Bible, go, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I brought people back from the dead. I've healed the sick. I've healed the wounded. Boy, what a feeling when you take those memories that you have now that are traumatizing you, being covered in blood or whatever, and you start realizing that, hey, if you wouldn't have been there for that person, that last little bit of a smile that was on that person's face as they passed away in your arms, it wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have been there for them. And when you can take that memory and turn it into a memory of knowing them and knowing that you were there for them, it's such a good release. I haven't seen a DVD or a video like this anywhere that tells you this kind of recovery. Is it going to help you recover? Recovery is going to take time. What's going to help you do is to see yourself and recover faster. And for those of you that, are worst case scenario, like I was, and maybe every day, or every other day is what I had. I had a good day and a bad day, and a good day and a bad day. Every other day, I had a gun to my head or something, I came through it just knowing and telling myself, tomorrow's going to be a better day. And I finally got into that point where it wasn't every day that was bad. It became every other day. Then it became every third day. Then it became maybe once a week. Then it became maybe once every 2 months. And now it's been years, and I'll never have that problem again. Because I did this. When I started feeling bad and having those bad days back then, I'd pull out my DVD. And I'd sit there and I'd watch part of it. I didn't have to watch the whole thing, because I know what the worst of the worst is, and I knew exactly to the second where I could go ahead and start it at to see the worst of the worst, to remember and see face to face what I was like back then and how far I've come and how I am today. Yeah, do I still have it nowadays? Well, yeah, I do have it sometimes, but it's always brought on by somebody else, by friends asking me what happened, or how'd you do, or what happened to so-and-so, and hey, it's all good, when you've been dealing with it for, a few years and you've come this far, you can look back at yourself and go, wow, what a wreck I was, and how good am I today, and you can talk about it. It gets to the point where you can actually talk about it with people who want to know. For the most part, if somebody wants to know the whole story nowadays, I tell them no, it's none of their business, Where before, I'd open up and I'd tell them everything, and You know, I've had people turn white and just turn around and walk away. Every psychologist I went to was drenched in their own tears. You know. And that was and that's what happened the last time is when I went to this lady, I was going to ask her, I wanted her opinion because she was the leading professional in my area, you know, and I asked her, I go, so you think I'm doing okay? You know, and she wanted to hear my story, and, you know, I mean, she's getting paid to do this, but boy, I'll never do that to anybody again. I told her my story, and there she was. It's like I said in the very beginning, you know, just crying flat out, soaked in tears. You know, saying, how did you live? And I looked at her, and I looked at how far I'd come, and I knew right then, instantly, that I would never do that to another person again. Because I've come that far. You know, most of you guys coming back right now, you're not going to be that far for years. It may take you 10 years. If you don't do this. I don't know. I'm not saying this is going to help you. What I'm saying is do everything you can. And you know, because you know what you're going through, that you're going to do everything you can. And I'm telling you, this is recovery. Making this DVD right now for you guys, you know, I'm doing my best to help you because that's what I've done all my life is help people. You know. And boy, when you're a fireman and a police officer, you know, a veteran, a medic, a doctor, a nurse, whatever. I don't mean to miss anybody, okay? You know what's going on. You've been there. You know, I've been helping people all my life. All the way from the time I was 4, 5, 6 years old, when my dad was a fireman. And going with him to fires, you know. I remember when I was like 4, my sister and I was like, you know, he got the call and he was captain of the rescue squad. And he's like, you guys got to come with me, it's a bad wreck. Okay, and he had no choice, but he couldn't give us to anybody. We were with him, so we went, and when he got there, I still remember this day, him saying, oh my God, you know, you guys sit on the floor, and don't look out the window no matter what. You know. And he had some of the other firemen come around and check on us while he was there saving lives also. This is what I ended up doing. You know, I became a Boy Scout. You know, I did my good deed every day. I was always helping people. Then I started working in a rest home as soon as I turned 18. And that's where I started holding people because they were passing away. You know, that's the problem with a rest home. You make a lot of friends, you know, and then they all die on you, you know. But you know what? I'd never trade in that experience, that blessing that I was able to give people and that they would be able to give me, you know, for anything. So use this DVD. You know, if you want help, if you want me to help you out, because I've been helping people all my life, I'm willing to help you guys too. If you're having a hard time dealing with this, you know, and you just don't know what to do, you're at wit's end, you can't make a DVD, you have nowhere to go, you're in the middle of a city, you can't get out and do nothing, you know, hook up, send me an email. Now the stuff I was doing as far as saving lives, some of the things were just incredible, just flat out incredible, you know. Take a look at my videos. That's one of the ways I recovered, was making not only this video here and my videos about my post-traumatic stress, but I made other good videos. And one of them is my testimony video. And that gives testimony about, you know, one of the things that I did, one of the kids that I saved. And you know, you got to realize that there are literally hundreds of stories just like this that I have done, you know, to save people, whether it be, you know, in that way, or in, you know, being called as a fireman or something back in my early 20s, you know, to put something together, or pulling up on a car wreck here last year, or a motorcycle wreck, and, you know, not being a medic and just going ahead and getting covered in blood, where they're like, you know, you got to have your gloves on and blah, 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 and I'm like, get out of my way, you know? I mean, I can put people back together real well. I've been doing it for many, many years. And when it comes right down to it, you know, if it comes between me saving my life or saving somebody else's, you know, if I'm going to get a little bit of blood on me, I'm going to get a little blood on me. I mean, I'm 50 years old. If I get some strange disease, whatever, you know, I'm sure I'll be able to make it another 20 or 30 years. I have this email address. You know, if you guys want some help, maybe you don't have a place to go, you know, I'm not going to be giving you money. You got to provide for yourself. I'm not going to be giving you my camera. You got to provide for yourself. Maybe I'll loan it to you. I don't know. But I do have this spot down here. If you need to be able to get out and sit in a spot where you can feel the goodness and recover. Then I have this new email address here that I had to get from YouTube at, you know, Gmail. And it's just all lowercase, reedlukens@gmail.com. This is the only reason I'm going to use this email address. I'm only going to have it for this, for post-traumatic stress disorder people, survivors like me. And if you're a survivor, you know, and you know what I'm talking about, you're more than welcome. You know, I'm not talking about just veterans here. I'm not talking about just men. I'm not talking about just women. I'm talking about men, women, children of all ages. As long as you get permission from your doctor. And if they say, go ahead and do it to it, see if it'll help, you're more than welcome to come out here. When you're making your DVD, you know, there's going to be times you better take a whole box of Kleenex with you in a garbage can. Because you're going to be, you know, just crying flat out. And you might get 2 or 3 sentences in before you just go ahead and break down and start crying again. You know. And what really helped me was being able to see myself and how hurt I was at that time. And see myself in the tears. You know. Those tears are long gone. They're a thing of the past. And I don't even remember. In 2007, I made the DVD. In 2008, you know, I kind of got bored one winter night. And so I went ahead and pulled it out and watched it again. And it was just like, man, that's not even me in those pictures. You know, I was a totally different person. I ended up actually having a real and honest-to-goodness blackout during that time at the very end of 2006. You know, in January 2007, I overdosed accidentally on prednisone. I don't need to go into that whole story, but I actually had a blackout where, you know, you pass out and you remember nothing but blackness, nothing but pure blackness for the entire time until you wake up. You have no memory. And what happened was I woke up with no memory. I'd lost my memory, and I went to the doctor immediately afterwards and told him what was going on. And he's the one that helped me understand that I'd overdosed myself accidentally. When he said to take 20 milligrams, I only heard him say take 20, so I ended up taking 100 milligrams, 20 pills of the prednisone. He said it would take me at least, you know, at least 6 months to get my memory back. It took the better part of a year to get everything back to normal. And that was just one part of the catastrophe. Yeah, always remember when you're handing out those DVDs, you tell them, look, I just need you to take this from me. I don't ever want you to watch it. Because everything that you have is personal. It's going to be on there. Are you going to get the same feeling by going out and giving it to strangers? I don't know. I didn't have to get that far. By handing it out to the key people that I needed to see it, I recovered so fast. And I should be dead right now. That's it. What more can I say, man? I've covered this subject thoroughly and entirely in every possible way that I can to help you guys. I make tons of DVDs. I have a lot of them here. Check out my page. You know, most of those DVDs that I made, a lot of them on my gold mining back in the beginning, you know, when the dredge building DVDs and all those, that was all during my recovery. And that was one of the ways I recovered also. I wasn't only sitting down here telling my horror story. I was down here educating people and educating myself and watching myself get better. That was one of the ways I recovered, was by making my own videos. So not only do you have to tell you don't only have to tell the bad stories. You want to watch yourself telling the good stories too. You know? I mean, in fact, let me tell you a story. This isn't really a saving a life story, but you know what? This is what you got to do. You got to have the good, you know, overflow and overtake the bad. So we were at work one day, and I had hurt myself or something, or I was painting and I'd gone into the lab, and our lab tech had a bad heart, and the safety director was in there too. And so I walk in there, and we're all just, you know, just shooting the BS, because that's what we do. You know, I work in a place where there's mostly guys in a mill, and we were just shooting it, and next thing you know, this guy starts having a heart attack, and he lays down on the ground. And of course, the safety director, he knew me. You know, I mean, I had a good reputation for, you know, being there when I was supposed to be there. And this is one of those times that it, you know, I just knew I had to be in there. And so the guy looks at me, John, and Jim was the guy laying on the ground. And so John looks at me and he goes, "You know CPR?" And he's all this like, not freaked out. And I go, "Yeah, I've used it a number of times. I've brought people back." And he goes, "Good, you get the mouth." You know? And old Jim, you know, he's chewing tobacco and stuff, and he's laying there on the ground just doing this stuff and, you know, crying his eyes out. And I looked at John, I go, "Hell no, I ain't taking the mouth. You get the mouth. You're getting paid for it." He's like, "I'm not touching that mouth." And I go, "I'm not either, man. I wouldn't do nothing. There's no way you're going to get me towards that." And Jim's just sitting down there looking up at us, you know, all freaked out. And he's having his heart attack and stuff. You know? And I laugh about this stuff, and I've laughed about this the whole time. This isn't one of those traumatic stories. Okay, this is one of the good stories that you got to tell. You got to tell the good stories. And this is the first time I've told this story, so you're going to get a little laughing as I remember the stuff that I'm telling, okay? So he's laying there, you know, flopping around and holding his chest and trying not to die. And John's sitting there going, "I ain't taking that mouth. I wouldn't touch that with your mouth." And I'm like, "Good, I ain't going to touch it with yours." And, you know, me and John, we're both, you know, those kind of people that are going to save lives no matter what. And Jim, he was so safe, he had no idea. He was not going to die in my presence. There's no way. It doesn't take place. You know, it doesn't take place when you're around me. You don't die. Period. You know, if you do, it'll be because there's absolutely nothing I could do by giving you CPR or whatever it takes. You know? Yeah. If there's any way I could save a life, I will. Jim didn't know that. I mean, he knew me, but not that well. So he's finally, you know, starts coming out of it. John and I are sitting there arguing, "I ain't going to touch that," you know, and I'm like, "I'm going to get out of here. You go find somebody else to save him." Then I start walking away, you know, just walking towards the door, just kind of joking around. You know, I took a couple steps and that was it. Next thing you know, Jim, he's doing okay. He got over his little heart attack, and he was, you know, he'd had him a number of times before, so we knew what was going on. All he had to do was lay out flat on the floor. And he comes out crying, you know, "No, you guys, you assholes. You were just going to let me die. You're just going to let me die." And me and John look at each other, and we start cracking up. And it's like, "Jim, you're not dead." You know? And I told him, you know, and so did John. If you would have sat there and lost your pulse and you would have died right there, we would have brought you back. You know, we would have saved your life. But it was more fun sitting here arguing about it to get the tension off, you know, because you look pretty disgusting on the floor, and I'm not going to put my lips to yours no matter what. And back in those days, that's how you gave CPR. You went ahead and you pumped her 5 times, you know, when you had 2 people, and you gave them 2 breaths or whatever it was. Nowadays, we don't do that, supposedly. You know, I do what it takes. You know, hopefully, you know, it doesn't get that far. So I got to bring you back from the dead. You know, raising the dead's what I do. I do it real well. A lot of us do it. But this is my story. You know, and this is one of my greatest stories, you know. I mean, I love that look on his face. Extreme terror. This guy was in extreme terror having this heart attack. And he comes out of it, you were just going to let me die. You know? I mean, that's one of my, you know, greatest memories. That's one of those saves that I like to have because I didn't have to perform CPR. You know, I didn't have to put a tourniquet around somebody's arm or leg, you know, or stop the bleeding somewhere. You know, I didn't have to hold them together and get them to the hospital. It was a very simple save. You know. Yeah, you watch my testimony, you'll see the kind of things that I do. And it's just such an incredible life that I've had, helping people, that I'm really hoping and praying that this helps you. And if it doesn't, I'll be sitting there scratching my head and saying, why? You know. Once again, follow the directions. You should be able to handle it on your own, with your own doctor's or psychologist or psychiatrist's advice. Anywhere you are in the world, you don't have to be right here. If you're close by, I'm available at times. And I'm willing to try and meet with you. And if nothing else, at least get you out to a spot where you can find peace and get yourself back on track a lot faster. You know, I just want to put one thing in there for you guys that have been out there, maybe even back for, you know, 5, 6, 7 years. Is this going to help you? You know? It's not going to hurt to try it. You know, if you're still dealing with it, all the trauma, all the stuff that you went through, try it. So you can see yourself. Seeing yourself is the key to recovery. The only way to see yourself is with the technology that we have here in the 21st century. A good HD video camera. Do your best to turn those nightmares into good memories by looking through the bad, through the horrors that you're dealing with, and see the good that you did. You know, I know a lot of you are going to have nightmares, but there's no way of seeing the good. But you know what? If you were fighting for my freedom, you know, I thank you. I owe you. We all do. And that's the good. You were saving our country. There's always something good. You just got to look for it. There's an old movie, an old Disney movie called Pollyanna. I watched that movie here not too long ago because I like watching movies, you know, that are uplifting. And she said that, you know, her dad always said, look for the glad texts in the Bible. You know, there was, and Carl Malden played the, you know, the beat down preacher. You know, doom and gloom as I call it. You know, you got, if you're going to church, you got good churches, you got mediocre churches, you got churches just like whatever. But you find a good preacher who tells you those glad texts and does his best to make you happy. And that can mean the world. It just makes a world of difference. It's one of the things I did. I had a great pastor, Pastor Stan Kuhn in Colfax Assembly of God. He was a great pastor. Man, I'll tell you, you could just feel the presence, and he was always there for you. If you go into a church, you try and recover, and you got one of those beat down pastors that wants to beat it out of you, just turn around and walk away and find another church. I've seen plenty of these kind of churches and plenty of these kind of people, and take the time to realize that most of you, no matter what the situation is, if you're going to the church to try and get counseling, these pastors haven't been trained for what you want to deal with, for what they have to deal with you. I actually made the mistake of going to a pastor, for help too, because in my situation, I needed him, to help me do certain things. And this pastor that I went to had no training. When I told him what was going on, I gave him the key words, worst case scenario of what I was dealing with and who it was that I was dealing with. And he didn't know what worst case scenario meant. He had no idea. He'd had a few weeks of training, and basically when he didn't answer the questions that I asked him to let him prove himself, I knew right then that I shouldn't have gone, and he ended up just beating me down. Yeah, he was a great teacher as far as being a pastor, but he was the worst counselor I ever went to. We're not close friends today, but we are friends, and he apologized for what he did because he didn't realize what was going on, and my story was so extreme that he couldn't even fathom what I was trying to talk about. You need to get professionals. Don't go to a church thinking you're going to get professional help. All you're going to do is get beat down by some teacher, by some pastors. Other pastors, like I said, I went to Colfax Assembly, God, where I had Pastor Stan Kuhn. He did nothing but do his best to bring me up. I hope and pray that you guys have a best friend. A best friend, this means so much. And I'm sitting here looking right at you. I'm looking into you right now. This is what you got to do. You have to have a friend that can look you eye to eye. If he's looking all around you, or whatever, that's not good enough. He's got to be able to look you eye to eye and listen to your story as best he can to help you out. And I want to see that smiling face. I really do. I want to see that smile back on your face, man. This is the whole point of this movie. Put that smile back. Get rid of those nightmares. Cast them out like they weren't even there. Put them on DVDs. If you want to go out into the city and start giving them away, hey, you know what? Knock yourself out. DVDs are, what, 7, 8 cents a piece? Knock them out and give them away. But remember to always give them to the key people that you need to have watch. And the very first person that you're going to give the DVD to, make sure he's that person that you need, that he needs to see that story, that you need him to see it, whether he watches it or not. And that's what I did. And he was one of the biggest helps that I had. He took that DVD, and I said, look, you don't have to watch this. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm not going to. And he goes, but I am going to take it, and I will watch parts of it from you. And I gave him the biggest hug. You want release? You give him that DVD. You give him the greatest hug that you possibly can to your friend, to your husband, to your wife. And I don't mean you just sit there and you put your arms around them and pat their backs. That's not a hug. You put your arms around them, you hold them tight, you feel their presence, and you get that release and say thank you. And you look them eye to eye and you say thank you. That release comes when you use those words, thank you. When they take that DVD, it's going to take everything that you have not to break down and lose it. But the release and that smile comes when they've taken it. And if you can be there, and if they're the kind of person that you can give a hug to, it is the strongest healing that you can get. Hey, in closing, You know, when you give someone a hug, it's always heart to heart. It's your heart pushed up against theirs. And you hold on to their back and you feel their backbone and you pull each other together and you do it in love. You know, whether it's a friend, a husband, a wife, a daughter, a son. You know, it's what makes things special. I mean, healing comes through love, and healing comes through hugs. And every bit that you can get is going to do nothing but just help you heal more.
Waterfalls in the ocean.
You know, I mean, there were days that I just longed for a hug. You know, and I can still remember those days where I would go out just to get a hug. And that was the greatest healing. And you couple that with this video, and you're going to heal, you know, and I just, like I said, I hope and pray that you make the DVD and put every single bit of emotion into it that you can. I don't think it really matters where you go, as long as it's maybe your special place that you've had your entire life, that you've always gone, where you feel safe. That's the most important. Be it the ocean, be it the river, be it a lake, be it on a cliff where you can see thousands of miles, or for days. You know, hey, I hope this video helped you guys out. And this is it. I'm pretty much done. If you think this video is worth passing on, just hit the like button, because I really don't know how to get it out other than just put it on here and let nature take its course. Anyway, God bless you guys, man.
My find of the day.